for anybody who's missing it. But the end of last session, we were just having a look at this intersection, just recapping and making everybody remember where we got up to, and we had a good chat about the new infrastructure there, creating that see-through effect and exacerbating the see-through effect and the challenges associated with that, and then the fact that audits are one way we should be looking to lessen this risk. Okay, but I wanted to pick up where we left off then, and just start talking about the types of road safety audits. So some of you may have heard these terms before, like we need a detailed design stage road safety audit done, or we need a existing conditions road safety audit done. So a road safety audit is this process, but it can be deployed at these different stages of a project. And sort of got them there in the green. You can see there all the things before any construction work happens in an upgrade project. So that could be the feasibility design, the preliminary design, the detailed design sort of stage of the project. Then they're into building it in the grey there. So you can undertake a road safety audit at the construction stage. And then the pre-opening. So they haven't opened the road yet, but they have got everything finished. And then post-construction, so immediate post-opening audit, or just called a post-opening audit mainly. That is, when it's very recently been opened, or in practical reality, if it's a brownfield site, it's a it's a post-opening audit anyway, because you're not cutting a ribbon and opening it. And then there's the existing conditions, existing roads. So thematic road safety audits, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, but those are looking at one particular theme, be it bicycles, motorcyclists, or pedestrians. And we talked a little bit about that last session as well, but I'll elaborate further in today and in some future ones. So let's just dig a little bit deeper into some of these. So a feasibility stage road safety audit is when you're given fairly high level, early sketches, plans. I sometimes call them the planning stage road safety audit. You can see big alignments like this often get a feasibility stage audit because people are saying, well, okay, are these the right places for interchanges? Are there going to be safety issues with that? Big land use stuff. How is all this community going to get down here now? Is that going to change things? Is that going to present safety issues? Are we altering things that may cause issues? It's big picture stuff usually. Sometimes you get into a bit more detail, but you never really get a huge amount of detail. And we're thinking about things like intersection form. Is it right to have a signalized intersection there? Should it be a roundabout? Are there other things we should consider? Is the cross section appropriate? So that's feasibility stage. Now, there aren't that many feasibility stage audits that happen. It's usually larger projects that get that. But then we go into preliminary or concept design stage. So this is where you're starting to get a bit more detail. And you can see that this one's on a survey base, but it could be on an aerial image. And you're getting a bit of detail about this. Then you go into the detailed design stage road safety audits. And this is where you get a heap of detailed design information. So you'll get long sections, cross sections. So you get the geometric layout. You get all these pavement plans, signs and line plans, signal plans, phasing diagrams and everything, if it's involving signals, there is a lot of detailed technical information that you'll be handed over, and you're expected to be able to work through that and identify safety deficiencies if they build it the way that they are designing it. Now, if you're not somebody who sort of looks at that and goes, oh yeah, I'm very comfortable with that, I know what that all means, and I'll be able to look in the details of that and find safety issues. It's not meaning that you can't add value to that audit team, but you really need to have a team that has people that can understand and read this and explain things. But you can ask just stock standard, well, not stock standard, but thoughtful questions about the design, the scheme, and what's happening. And detailed design has all sorts of things. I just thought I'd throw in a random example here, which is things like drivable culvert end walls. And we know that we have a number of different types of drivable culvert end walls. So a drivable culvert end wall is trying to stop it so if a vehicle leaves the road here, they don't abruptly stop on this head wall or end wall of a culvert there. And so they are these sort of ramps that come up. But as you can see, there are two types, one for a drainage system that goes across the road, and one that runs parallel with the road. And you've got to use the right drivable culvert end wall and for the right layout there, or it doesn't function. Well, it may function, but it's not quite as good as you'd like. So there's a sort of detailed design issue that does seem to come up quite a bit. People putting a type 2, well, it's more people putting a type 1, the parallel one, where it's a perpendicular location, because potentially they're not aware that there is even a type 2 drivable culvert end wall. Then we have the construction stage audits, and these are where we get the traffic management plan and the traffic guidance scheme, and we have a look in at what are some of the road safety issues associated with this. In a similar way to a normal other road safety audit, non-construction site one, we're looking at that plan not just for conformance with the code of practice and the standards and the like. We're looking generally and holistically at what are the safety issues that could arise when they've got this set up. Now, work zone traffic management schemes are quite dynamic and changing, so it can be a complex exercise. But we shouldn't just be looking at, have we got the right taper length? Is that the right sign that they're going to be using and the like? You really want to be looking at, you definitely want to look at all of that. But you also want to look at, okay, well, how are people now going to access this road from out here? What are they going to have to do? Where are they going to go? Because they're going to do it. Are we just going to push them to a more dangerous location? If there's like a KFC on the corner here, how are they going to get their chicken? They're going to walk across the road. It doesn't matter that you've blocked it. They will go there. So we've got to maybe provide those access points. Are we going to put a detour in that detours a whole lot of traffic down a road with school or a high pedestrian area or a bike facility or something that's going to cause other trouble? Are we going to queue into areas that are going to cause trouble? So you're thinking beyond just conformance with that code. Pre-opening road safety audits are, as I say, before the ribbon gets cut or the facility is opened. And again, this, in my experience, is mainly done on fairly large projects, greenfield style sites, and like this one here, which is part of the Calder before it opened. And you get out there and you're looking at things like, okay, have they got the right colored RPMs in the right spot? Are the guideposts the right way around, so we're seeing red or white in the right spots? We're getting the overlap the rails on the barrier right, the barrier heights right, we've got the right signage out there. Is those are the kind of things you're trying to pick up. So a little bit of spot post-opening auditing here. Can give a prize for the first person who can see an issue there as a post-opening road safety auditor. And while that happens, I'll answer Tom's question that's coming there. Is preliminary design the same as functional design? Preliminary design tends to, well, I can go back. Yeah, there's a bit of blurredness between all of those. Wow, all the answers are coming in, and I'm going to go just quickly there. I'll look at those stages for you. So feasibility is first, and then preliminary and functional. Yeah, I'd use those terms interchangeably. You are, in a sense, ensuring your design can function at that preliminary stage. Okay, lots of people got this. Yeah, you can't have somebody turn right from this lane while somebody's going straight from this lane. So line marker seems to have got this upside down, their stencil upside down or the like, and these things happen. Like, you don't want them to, and gee, you'd hope that this would have been identified in one of the many existing processes without a road safety audit happening, but sometimes these do happen. And yeah, I have a colleague who was doing the post-opening audit for a major freeway, toll road freeway that got line marked the same. It was a double exit, and they had marked it all with a left and straight on both lanes. So same as this, basically. And yeah, so he pointed it out. There was a very quick line marking exercise that happened there because they had the minister booked in to cut the ribbon, and they quickly changed it. Okay, so existing conditions road safety audits, they are what am I going to say about this? Use them sparingly. Okay, I was in Victorian government at one point when there was a decision made that all arterial roads in Victoria should have a road safety audit undertaken on them because road safety is very important. And off we went, and I was in the region at the time, off we went and started engaging consultants to undertake road safety audits on, just huge amounts of the network. And well, consultants, great time because there's lots of auditing and work to do, and it's great fun, and you can find thousands and thousands of issues on an existing length of highway and continue to sort of note those down. But the issue was that we were just like, all that was happening was just getting piles and piles of reports and issues, and they were risk rated, so we could kind of see which ones, but there wasn't like a good program to fund them, and it just was, to me, just a big waste of everybody's resources and time for that. What a much better way to do that is to use some different tools or different methods to do a high-level filter of risk. Traffic volume and speed are a pretty good way to do it, and land use, as in how much, if it's an urban land use, high speed, high volume, you pretty much know we're in high risk territory. And then you target and deploy some audits in these areas. The other one that I do like, or reason I do like existing condition audits, actually there's two more reasons. One is if there's an area that has an inconsistent crash history. So, this, I remember a road safety audit is not a black spot investigation. So if you've got this fairly consistent crash history, you can just do a black spot investigation. But if it's all a bit over the place and just hard to figure out, a road safety audit can be a good thing to do there. Or if you've got the community complaining about areas and there's a bit of disagreement between council and the community on whether it's risky or not, or stakeholder groups in the community, it can be a nice independent reporting on an issue, and that can often alleviate some of those concerns, or at least makes the council or the road authority, I suppose, more confident in their views if it aligns with the audit, or identifies things to them from that expert perspective. Okay, so those were the stages of a project you can undertake a road safety audit. And probably, Marissa, before I jump into this a little bit further, I'll check if there's anything else I should be covering off or answering any questions.
No, there's no questions at the moment. If anyone has any questions, please pop them in the chat. But no, nothing at this stage, Ken.
Thank you. Okay. So we've got projects, we can audit at different stages, but any of those stages, we undertake the same steps to do that road safety audit. It doesn't matter if it's a feasibility stage or a detailed design or a construction site, we're going to follow these steps to do this road safety audit. And they're 10 steps. And I'm going to take you through those in this bit of the module, and point you at where you can find some further information on all that. So it's a straightforward process, 10 steps. It does take time to undertake road safety audits. It's not a quick exercise. You've got to follow these steps, and you've got to do a fair bit of thinking and reviewing and getting advice from others sometimes. Audits add value to the projects, and they really do need to be an integral part of design. Now there's a sign there. Is it? Has anybody got any issues with that? Anybody see any thing that's a little bit strange about that one? Okay, I'll come back to that actually. I'll come back to it, I promise I will. Just let people have a think about it. I see a few things coming in. So the process for a road safety audit, I will come back to that. There's the selection of the audit team, and that's done by the client person. Well, and then I say client, that's looking from an auditor's perspective. It's usually the road authority or the sponsor of the project is another way that it's sometimes termed, but that'll be the council, that'll be the state road authority. It may sometimes be a developer, and that's because the council or the state road authority has pushed that responsibility of the audit process to that developer and made it a requirement of a permit or something like that. All of the background information is provided, so the designs, any planning reports, any other information that may be relevant to the audit team to be able to do their job. Then there's a commencement meeting, and this is where the client and the audit team are going to have a chat about, okay, do you understand what's happening? And the audit team might ask questions about the scope that of the work that is being planned, or maybe different clarifications on what different things mean. Now, in practice, for smaller audits, that's often just done as a phone call or sometimes just an email, depending on how it is. Certainly for your big billion-dollar projects, that's a sit down, that's a roll out the plan, and everybody is around and talks to it. Now, assess the documents. So really, it's probably not the client in that. I mean, that's sort of a hangover from that to say that the starting of that happens in the commencement meeting with everybody there. But the audit team is really the one there that takes that and goes away and pours through the details of those documents and the designs. And then they go and inspect the site. And they conduct their audit and find things and look at stuff and bring it all together and write up a road safety audit report. Now, we're going to give you a template road safety audit report that conforms to the Australian Road Safety Part 6. So you will be able to just use that as a template. You can rebrand it. You can put your own logos on it and colors and everything like that. The important thing is that we are consistent as an industry in what we are putting out as reports. And there is quite a bit in there that we should be reporting. Once it's completed, it's handed over to the client. And at that point, really, the audit team has done their job. It's over to the client. They may ask for a completion meeting, which is where the auditor would sort of present the findings, explain it, and there might be some discussion there. The client then will respond in writing, but not necessarily to the audit team. The audit team's done their job. They've handed it over. This is internally. The clients should be making commitments to address things or kind of fix issues. And then they implement changes. So I'll jump into these in a little more detail. I mean, the audit team is selected, and in practice, mostly it's up to a consultancy or a department to pull together the team. The client could technically request individuals if they wanted, but mainly it's just given to a consultancy and they pull together an appropriate team. But you're going to need somebody to lead that audit, and they need to be a senior road safety auditor. Then there can be road safety auditors, and then we can have others. So they could be observers. We use the term observer, maybe like it's trying to cover a big category of stuff. Like if you had the local principal of the school or a teacher that came out and told you a bit about where the kids cross and what some of the issues they see are, we don't call them we don't call them a road safety auditor. They're just giving us information. We call them an observer. A trainee would be somebody who is being part of the audit team who has not completed the road safety audit course and got their road safety audit qualifications, but they may be contributing or doing parts of it. I will talk to you a little bit later about, it's in the next slide. No, it's not the next slide. I'll talk to you a little bit later in this course about how to become a senior road safety auditor. You're going to be coming out of this and you'll be a road safety auditor, and then you'll look to progress up over time to that senior auditor status. So it should be an audit team. Austrades stresses that everything should be as a team. There is some provision for potentially a one-person audit for a very small job and low risk under the client's direction. But if you're common practice. And if it says, to conform with Austroad's guide and everything, you're going to do it as a team, which means more than one person. Make sure everybody's independent. And only a senior road safety auditor can be the lead of the team. Now, ideally, we have this very rich mix of people within that team, and we have people with lots of knowledge about different areas and different ages and different professions, and we get this really rich tapestry of knowledge in your team. But sometimes practical reality means you can't really do that. But this one I was pulling an audit team together, and had Michael and Johan and myself, that was the audit team. And I thought, oh, not really that diverse, because we're all about the same age, male, grew up in road authority. That's how we all know each other in the state road authority. And you sort of go, wow, we're not going to get really different views on stuff, are we? So we asked Wendy to come along. Wendy's a bit older than us, female, scooter rider, had a whole lot of varied views on things, which contributed to our overall thinking as a team around the audit. So that was good. But as I say, that one was a particular luxury to that one in terms of the time we had and the resources we had available. So that was good. Sometimes you just take what you can reasonably pull together. So then you collect all this background information, commencement meeting, as I said, have a look at the documents, and then do a daytime and nighttime inspection. We go out there during the day to look at the site and see what we can see, and there's lots of stuff you find. And you can easily see where North Croydon is there during the day, or the direction of North Croydon. It's not so easy there at night. That's one example. But there's lots more things that can pop out at night that you maybe don't expect. Sometimes the lighting creates visual deceit. Sometimes the proposed alignment of a road is going to put headlights directly into the eyes of other vehicles, and you sort of can see some of that more at night. Sometimes the land use changes. Sometimes there's much more, I don't know, there's nightclubs and things that aren't as obvious during the day, but it's quite a lot going on at night. Some of this you'll be able to get from background information and the like, but sometimes you've got to get out there. So you get out there at night as well. Now back to this. Marissa, what were people saying? Did you see anything?
Yeah, what have we got? All right, we've got fall off earth, roundabout going wrong way, back to front roundabout, right side drive. Question mark.
Yes. Very good. Okay. Well, I'll let you work out who's getting prizes for that. But the gap there is on the wrong side, so it's the wrong way around. Now, some of you might be saying, hang on, do we even have gaps on roundabout signs in Australia? Is that a thing? And the answer is yes, we do. And the gap's on that side. Some of you are probably now going, I would have driven past 10,000 of these things. I didn't even notice a gap. Well, that I suppose shows you that there's quite a lot of subtlety often in the road network in terms of signage, line marking, but also even geometric design and things. Sometimes it's quite subtle. Our job as auditors is to, have a good bit of understanding about some of this. But that gap's there to remind people to drive clockwise around the roundabouts. Now, is this a big road safety issue? And I'm going to have to say no. I really, people are not going to likely approach this and drive the wrong way around it because that gap is there. But there's a subtle little bit of information there, and it's not right. But I suppose the question I might pose to the group is, where might it be a little bit more risky? what location out there on our road network would it be a little bit more risky? Yeah. Okay, good. We're getting some ideas in there. People are saying, where tourists are there, foreign drivers, places like the Great Ocean Road. Well, this one coming out of Hobart International Airport. And when you pick up a rental car and you drive out, this is the first roundabout you hit. So you are going to get a lot of tourists. You're going to get a lot of people who haven't driven in Australia, probably. Maybe they've come from a country that drives on the wrong side of the road and doesn't have roundabouts like America. Yeah, this is going to be a little bit higher risk than that. I still don't think it's in a high risk or catastrophic risk area, but it's a bit more than the other one, just due to its context and location. We always got to have a think about all of that when we're risk rating in our road safety audits. So, Marissa, I'll let you choose the prize there for somebody who said sort of tourist areas or the like. So then we go to writing up a report. And as I say, I'm going to give you a template, so I don't need to go through this in detail. But you're going to explain the project, the information that you were given. This one is really important. And I review a lot of road safety audit reports I have in my time, and lots of different consultants and individuals doing audits. And one of the things I'd say, this is not well done in terms of this design number, this date. And the reason it's important actually is because you will audit at a particular point in time in the development of this project, and it will change. And it's important that there is an understanding of what was looked at in this audit. And there's been a number of legal cases where there has been road safety auditors pulled in and asked, very hard questions as to why they did not pick up certain issues, and was that reasonable? Would others in the industry have picked it up? And the auditors that have had that very well detailed are able to say, it wasn't in the plans that we looked at here. Said it in the report. That's the plan. It wasn't there. List the team members, the dates that things happened, and then your findings. And there's a sort of typical table of contents, which, as I say, I'm going to give you that template for you to use anyway. Photos, very important and good to be putting in there. So the audit report is then handed over, and could be a completion meeting or could be a phone call even. Responses are written and implemented. But what happens to the audit report? Okay, well, it's handed over to the project manager or designer or whoever it is. Everybody should be keeping copies of that. The project manager is required to respond in writing to all the recommendations in the audit report. But when I say respond, it's like to actually respond themselves. They don't need to hand it back to the audit team. Responding is a vital in part. It's so important, and it's often overlooked. If there's audits that are done and there's no responses to those, that's a real smoking gun in a legal case, because an expert has been engaged to identify risk and then nothing's been done with it. So it really needs to become an accepted part of the process within an organisation. So if you're the project manager and you're receiving this report, a few things to remember. The responses that you write could become public, even though it is internal that you're jotting this down. freedom of information means that those things can come out. Good practice to respond to the audit team in writing. So we like that as audit teams to get the final, yep, we're going to do this, we disagreed with this, or we're going to do this other thing instead, but that's not absolutely required. So a bit of a common misunderstanding is that people think that the project manager must do everything the auditor says. That's not at all the case. The auditors have no legislative power. They are simply providing an advice piece. But that being said, the project manager or the designer or whoever's receiving this audit report, if they're not going to do something or they disagree with it, they really need to justify that in their response. It's okay to do it, but just justify it. It's their project, and they decide what happens. Okay, I'm going to stop there and see if anybody's got any questions before I jump in and we delve into one particular road user. So Marissa, I'll let you have a look at the chat there again and let me know if anybody wants to.
We do have a couple of questions. Do RSAs always require day and night time assessments?
So the answer is no, but I'm always a little bit reluctant to say that because it's good practice to do a nighttime inspection. And in the end, it's really up to the client to decide. So whoever's commissioning the audit, the auditor themselves, if just told to do an audit in accordance with Austroads, would be doing a nighttime inspection. So sometimes clients will say, we don't want a nighttime inspection, maybe trying to save some money on it, or maybe potentially concerned about the occupational health and safety of the auditors. That could be a discussion that could be had, but the bulk of the time, nighttime inspection is part of it. Now, I would say 1 in 10 nighttime inspections, I pick something up, or the audit team I'm in picks something up that we couldn't have picked up during the day. So it's not the best value, but something, when you pick them up, sometimes you're like, yeah, that makes it all worth it, because that really is confusing when you see those signs, retroreflectivity in combination. You just can't tell where the road's going or something like that. So I strongly encourage it. Don't make it your own decision as an auditor not to go out there at night, because if your client's told you to, then you're putting your neck on the line from a legal perspective. The other one that often comes up as a question is, do you always need to go to the site? And for the sort of 15 years I've been running this course, I say absolutely every audit must go to the site. However, the 2022 release of the Austroads guide just gave this little statement around feasibility audits, and I was involved in a lot of the discussion. It says, in some circumstances for a feasibility audit, there may be the possibility to just do it from the desktop. Now, why would that be? Well, that's because you're often looking at those and they're absolute greenfield sites, and you just go, this is at a feasibility stage. This is just weird, standing in a paddock. And you're going, well, I don't see anything. Admittedly, your tie-in points, you get some good intel where it's meeting the actual road network, but if you're doing a feasibility audit, it's going to get a preliminary and a detailed design road safety audit, which they're going to have to go to the site for. So they'll be seeing those. So it's just kind of opened up a little door from that perspective. Good question, though. Any other questions?
Yes. If the public requests an RSA via freedom of information, would council need to release it?
Yes. I've had a lot of my audits go out, or audits I've been part of a team member for that have been FOI'd, and yep, for local governments, and the local government has to hand it over, and the local government, they've got usually an FOI officer, and they contact us and they say, are you comfortable with this going out? I don't actually know what they would do if I said no. I think then you'd have to put your case forward for why it's commercial in confidence or something like that. But the names get redacted, so you don't know who the auditors were. But apart from that, yes, it goes out and it's used for whatever purposes they've FOI'd it for. So again, and that's actually why I mentioned earlier that so if you do an audit for a council and it's handed over to the council and they write their responses, that whole thing can get FOI'd. So if their responses are, not up to scratch in terms of, like instead of saying, sorry, if they said like, not doing it, can't afford it, that probably not enough, and that gives those legal people a bit more oomph to go with. But if it's sort of said, yes, we agree that's an issue, we've got limited budget in this project, however, that's been put into the program for future capital works as an option or something like that, it's a much more cohesive sort of statement covering off your risk.
Great, thanks, Ken. And another question, would it be okay to do a desktop RSA only on a rural road with very low AADT?
No. It's so it's not that you can't add value to a project by looking at a design or something at a desktop, but the audit process involves going to the site for anything outside of, as I said, this feasibility early stage audit. And it's not really determined by traffic volume or risk level or these sort of things. It's going to the site's all part of it. I know some jurisdictions have put in place sort of some exemptions under specific scenarios of number of people that would need to go to sites, and I believe sometimes for some of this, I think Western Australia and Northern Territory had some state level sort of specific exemptions, but they're very much the rarity, and they were due to some of these sites being 15-hour drive sort of stuff, which to me is all the more reason to have two people. But anyway, good question. Thank you.
Just got another one sneak in before you go ahead, Ken. If the lead auditor deems it necessary to conduct a site audit after a desktop review, can they push for a site audit, or is it always the client's call from the start?
Yeah, so this would be a very rare circumstance. So you're talking about these very, very rare scenarios where it's a feasibility stage audit and the client has said, we don't want you to do a site inspection for this one, but you sort of looked at it and thought, oh, that would be valuable. You can go out there and do it. It all comes down to what you're being paid for, really. There, you're going above and beyond if you go out and look at it. But that can be a very useful thing to do. I know that's happened for me with an audit team once in particular, I remember, where the client said, we don't want any nighttime inspection done. I was like, why not? Like, And they say, no, we really budget limited in this whole area and we can't, I'm like, it's not going to cost much more. And in the end, we said, okay, well, that's fine. No nighttime inspection. And then we just did the nighttime inspection anyway, because you're kind of out there and you just go and you go to the local McDonald's and sit down and start writing up your audit and chatting about it and wait for it to get dark, and then you go look at it again. It's not really a big exercise. But yeah, so the answer is yes, you could do that. Okay, some good questions there. I might get started on our pedestrian presentation, and then we'll have a break shortly, I think. Let's get everybody to stretch their legs, but it's not quite half time yet, is it? So we'll do that. I think, Marissa, we might even be able to finish a little bit early so people can get further stuck into that assignment that we've given them. And we'll also take any questions people have on that assignment. So if you're struggling to get your head around what we're asking of you or anything like that, pop it into the chat now or into the Q&A, and we'll make sure we answer those before the end of the session. Now, Marissa, you seeing the pedestrian safety presentation there on your screen?
Yeah, I can see it clearly, Ken.
Good, thank you. So what we do as part of the Austroad syllabus for a road safety audit course is that we jump through a number of road users to ensure that everybody's thinking about all road users, and we try and give you a few little insights into particular road users. We have a session on pedestrians, cyclists, motorcyclists. Heavy vehicles get integrated into the technical design audit one. Jamie Robinson will talk to you a little bit about some of that. And and cars, I suppose, are throughout the whole thing. So this one on pedestrians, we're going to just point you at some requirements of pedestrians for safe travel, some technical information that's available, common road safety audit issues for pedestrians, and some treatments and terminology. Keep counting your ollies too. Okay, 4 groups of pedestrians at greatest risk. Who wants to throw a few ideas in? What groups of pedestrians might be at the greatest risk? Okay. Oh, yeah, good. I think we've almost got them all. So I'm seeing there, children, elderly, yes, yes. Disabled, yes. One missing. Yeah, drunks or intoxicated pedestrians, we'll call them, covering off maybe more than just alcohol. That's right. Well done, Marissa. You've got quite the challenge of working out who was first there, but elderly, young, disabled, and intoxicated. And we know they present different risk scenarios. Elderly don't move as fast, much harder cognitive processing, much slower in processing information, making choices, and the like. However, exposure is lower. The other one is they're much more frail, so very minor things can be very serious injuries and fatalities. Young, obviously darting around, smaller, hidden behind cars, much more resilient to force, so can handle much higher speed crashes and not have serious injuries and fatalities. But really that erraticness and darting and all of that sort of stuff is very much their risk portfolio. And being a pedestrian, there's only limited amount of force that can be handled. Disabled, from an individual risk perspective because of the fact that, you know, they may not be able to get onto footpaths, cross the road in areas, crossing in more unsafe places, being stuck in their mobility device on the road because they can't get up onto the curb or the like. These are all issues. But far and away, the biggest overall numbers of deaths and serious injuries for pedestrians are in the intoxicated category. That's huge in Australia, just massive compared to all of the others. So it's something we need to think about as audience, because we can't just push the blame to others. We need to think about what our road environments are doing and how we can manage areas and slow vehicles in areas where there's more likely to be these intoxicated pedestrians. Okay. So the strategies, like at a broad level, you can segregate, so you can not have any mix between vehicles and pedestrians. You can separate in time or space, or you can integrate and make them share the same environment. So let's just have a look at that. So segregation is, you know, common things like the freeway, which is obviously just aimed for just cars. If you do any crash analysis of motorways and freeways, though, you find, unfortunately, there's a reasonable amount of pedestrian trauma due to people getting out of cars and getting out of taxis late at night and all sorts of strange things happening. But the theory is that there should only be for passenger vehicles and motorcycles and trucks, or malls, which are areas only for pedestrians. So separation in time, what we mean by that is that you've got a crossing that the same bit of road at some point is used for pedestrians there, but the same bit of road will be used for vehicles at another point in time. And obviously our danger exists when one of those users is in there in the wrong time. And school crossings the same, time-based. And these types of crossings where you can cross in all directions. Anybody know the actual technical name for a crossing that you could cross that way or that way? So scramble is, I'll give a prize for scramble. It's not its official name. It's what it's quite commonly called. Anybody know the actual name for it? Chaos crossing. That's not a bad one. It's not. Lattice. It's called a Barnes dance. There you go. You need that for your traffic engineering trivia night answer. It's a Barnes dance. I don't know why it's called a Barnes dance. I assume it's a Mr. or Mrs. Barnes came up with the idea. Maybe Jimmy Barnes. Maybe. Anyway, that's separation in time. Separation in space are our pedestrian refuges, footpaths within the sort of road carriageway as such. And we want to make sure that we've got space anywhere there that we can store pedestrians. And good rule of thumb for a refuge island, for example, I mean, there's lots of standards that you can look at. 1742.10 is one. This is an old version of that, actually. I really need to update this slide. Yeah, but a really good one, you don't need to really look at that. Just imagine a father or a mother pushing a pram and don't make them decide if them or their baby has to be in live traffic lane. That's a pretty good way to think about it. Or if you're riding a bike, your bike be able to fit there. That's sort of good ways to think about it. Or maybe a mobility scooter, would it be able to fit there and pop there? Now, pedestrian overpasses, they're that separation in space, but don't be fooled into thinking that this is like the ultimate in safety for pedestrians, because the reality is a lot of pedestrians don't use it. And yes, it's there, but the climbing up of these big ramps, and it's just unlikely that intoxicated pedestrians are going to use that. And they have to be designed carefully and thought about, and really be attractive to use and the like. Now, is this a regulatory speed sign in Australia? Is this in our road rules? Are we accepting this or not? Anybody? Yes. I'll take the first yes there. There's take a prize there. It is a regulatory sign, and it has a specific road rule associated with it. It says that this whole area signed with a shared zone gives pedestrians priority until there is an end shared zone sign. So it basically creates a whole length of road, becomes like a pedestrian crossing in that sense. So there's one here. Now, you don't need to put that give way to pedestrians, although I think that's some acknowledgement that not many people actually know what on earth that sign actually means, which maybe everybody should hand back their license until they do that. But nonetheless, they've put that there. But there is some advice. This is one in Sale in Victoria. There is some advice that is provided around how to design a shared zone. And the advice is to make it not look like a road. Make it not look like a road. Now, this one, I think they've done some things to make it not look like a road. So it's a different colour to the surrounding road environment. They've got rid of curbing. So these are good things. But then they've gone and line marked it like a road, and it's straight, and they've put the parking there. A really good shared zone is one in which you are driving. If you drive into a really good shared zone, you'll say to yourself, am I allowed to even drive here? And it's got very different surfaces. It's not line marked like a road. It's got maybe parking in weird places. And that then really creates that environment of very low speeds and that encouragement of giving way to pedestrians. Polka dots on the pavement. So Yarraville did a little bit of that happening, or that was the Maribyrnong City Council, and we did get called in to do a road safety audit on that one for particular resident concerns around kids using them as play areas to jump around and the like. So that was a fascinating exercise to dig into that and observe the area for long periods of time and things. So quite interesting. All right, I think we better take a break. Let's take 5 minutes and we'll come back to it after that. So have a break, have a stretch, fill up the water, back in 5 minutes to get back into it.
Get stuck into it.
Okay. So let's jump into what sort of things we might be looking for as a road safety auditor for pedestrians. And I'm going to use some examples of issues that are common findings when we're thinking about pedestrians, but also I'm going to show you through some crash investigations. Not that a road safety audit is a crash investigation, but we can learn from crashes so we can identify that in future designs, those characteristics. Okay, so first one I'll talk about is sight distance to pedestrian crossings. And there's a fair bit to unpack in sight distance to pedestrian crossings, but certainly we do want to provide sight distance to the pedestrian at 1.6 metres back and ensure that that's stopping sight distance for the vehicle approaching. But this scenario here on a slip lane is extra problematic. And the reason for that is as a vehicle approaches this, the driver is looking out that way, aren't they? They're looking out to see if they can put the foot down and go. And so we've got a driver approaching a point where we're going to potentially have a pedestrian step out. And the pedestrian's less looking to see if they've got a safe gap because they have priority, and it's just not a great scenario all around. So there are plenty of ways we can lessen this risk. We could remove the slip lane altogether if you can practically do that. We could raise the crossing, we could signalise the crossing. Yeah, so there's a few. You could square it up a little bit more even. So those are a few ways that we could lessen that risk. So I mentioned there you could remove the slip lane. People often jump to that as an idea. But you really, if you're going to go down that track, want to analyse the swept path of larger vehicles. So part of the reason slip lanes are often put in place is because a large vehicle can't track around a corner in the way they want. It's also a traffic flow thing often as well. But we really want to think about larger vehicles, articulated vehicles coming around a corner. And if there's an area where pedestrians are storing and your larger vehicles can't get around without mounting the curb and tracking, we're in a situation where we could see some pretty serious consequences, as we have seen around Australia in recent years with pedestrians killed who have just been standing waiting to cross the road, and a large vehicle and its swept path has caught the pedestrian there. The other thing when we think about pedestrians is, and this goes, I suppose, wider than just pedestrians, but sometimes you've got to audit and look at what's not there, not what is there. And so if, take for example, this one, the pedestrians walking on the grass, but if it was wet, or if they were in a mobility scooter or pushing a trolley or pushing a pram, I mean, the reality is that they've got to be in that bike lane, that shoulder there. And if you're seeing pedestrians in these environments, or you know that there is pedestrian activity in the area, we'd be pointing that out in our audits. And here's another one where we see the pedestrian, as they walk over that hill, they're sort of going to be hidden, and if that's muddy or they're pushing something, they're really going to be just in the shoulder and over a crest, and that's a pretty dangerous location. We've got a little gap in our roundabout sign. Yes, we do. It's in the right spot. You won't be able to go past a roundabout sign now without having a look for the gap. So a term we often use when we're talking about pedestrians in audits and the like is desire line, pedestrian desire line. That's simply that straight line between where pedestrians are and where they want to go. So this one is in Footscray, and the desire line is over to the station entry, and you can see that this girl here is going to go at that, even though somebody's put up a pedestrian fence to try to stop people doing that. She's walk along the road for a while until she gets to that gap for her to go in, and so trying to corral pedestrians with pedestrian fencing is a very dangerous thing to do as a designer or a traffic engineer. And us as auditors need to be the voice of reason and realistically say, if we put that fencing up, some of them are just going to walk on the road, or that'll trap pedestrians in the wrong area. It's also just from a general livability and place perspective, not great to corral your pedestrians like sheep into different areas. It's you lose a lot of place value doing that. So I'm not a big fan of pedestrian fencing from a safety perspective in most situations out there on the public road network. There are some situations where I think it's good, very specific situations. One is outside of pubs or nightclubs, and it's done a number of coronial reports, inquest reports on fatalities involving pedestrians exiting drinking establishments. And one of them was people fighting, and they went out onto the road during their scuffle and were both killed. The other was, it was a bit unclear to actually work out exactly what happened, but a gentleman seems to have somehow tripped and staggered out onto the road. So in both those cases, I mean, pedestrian fencing would be good from the containment of the pedestrian perspective. And I think that's reasonable. That's a good spot to be having it. The other's outside school gates for a very similar reason without the intoxication. It's more the chasing a ball or just playing and those sort of things happening. So we want to be, thinking from that perspective, very tailored use around some public transport spots can work, but just be careful with it. And that pedestrian desire line, I thought this was a good one. I grabbed off LinkedIn, which I say, okay, well, that's user experience versus design, and we've got to be, as auditors, thinking about, well, what are the users going to be doing, and not just, you know, what have we designed to try to make them do. A few more examples of that. Oh, lots of examples of that. That's so we don't see this much in Australia anymore, but certainly you might be out there undertaking road safety audits in other countries around the world, because road safety auditing is now an international practice and a lot of jurisdictions see the value of it. So you may be out there doing these sort of things, and you see countries and they're planning big new road investments because they can see the economic advantage of providing these roads, but they'll plough them straight through, separating communities, residential maybe on one side and commercial on the other, and we really got to think about the fact that pedestrians and people will move through that. We need to provide those facilities. Okay, let's have a look at this case study. Again, investigating an incident with a colleague. We were out there for quite a while, but this is what a car sees as they're looking down here. And this next photo is taken just behind this hazard board. That's what a pedestrian sees. Now, who has right of way? Whose priority is it? The vehicle or the car or the pedestrian in this scenario? Right, it's the cars. So prize there for whoever that was, Robert, wasn't it? First in with the car. It is the car's priority, but it didn't take long before we started seeing pedestrians sort of just blasé walking across here, and thankfully the car's stopping. Unfortunately, in one of the situations, the car was traveling along happily at their speed and not giving way, and the pedestrians stepped out because they, I don't know, there was some things that maybe subtly gave them the thought that, oh, this is my place to cross, my priority, or the like. Now, we probably look at it from a very particular perspective, don't we, with understanding what the requirements of a crossing are with lines and signs and particulars, but this one, seems to have caused that issue. So I'm very adamant that we need to be very clear with our priority. I think a question might have come in that I want to answer. So Paul's asked, why does the car have priority in this example and pedestrian for the slip lane? Yeah, okay, so actually, I think I can do it. Maybe I can't do it. Hang on a second. I've got a slide somewhere, or it might be hidden. Whoa, it's all coming through from everybody. I'm going to just jump ahead a bit, actually, to answer that. So for the pedestrian to have priority on crossing a road, we need to have the walking leg sign, and it needs to be marked with a pedestrian crossing, or it needs to be signalised. Okay, that's the way we do it. Or it's got to be part of that shared zone, and it's got to be correctly marked according to that. So, even this one here doesn't quite conform. You'd argue it does. That should have your pedestrian zebra crossing lines the same way that one does. So that's the setup. It should have markings and the legs, and that gives pedestrian priority for those crossings. So that's what the slip lane had all of that. Now let me jump back a little bit, because we do sometimes create a little bit of confusion for pedestrians with things that kind of look like pedestrian crossings, and the pedestrians may feel they have priority, like this one. And I think it's not that bad. I like a threshold treatment. I think it's good. Pedestrians technically have priority for half of this, for 1.5, but anyway, don't worry about that. This is a better way to design a threshold treatment, just so it's not confusing. Pedestrians will be very much stopped and look, or you just create it as a actual formalized pedestrian crossing, a zebra crossing across that, wombat crossing is raised, and that's a good setup. Again, confusion here. You come out of Launceston Airport, you're getting picked up by your friend who you haven't seen for years, or whatever it is, and it looks kind of pedestrian priority, but cars come through here, and it's vehicle priority, but it's very unclear. The fact that it's raised is going to help out significantly, but that could easily and should easily be a pedestrian crossing formalised. And these courtesy crossings, as some countries call them, they just cause trouble, in my opinion. Just if you want pedestrians to have priority, just mark it as pedestrian priority and design it and put it in properly. And let's get our signage right. Not that I think this is a major, again, safety issue, but it's something that we should be picking up. Pedestrian leg signs are not to say where pedestrians should be going or crossing. That's to say that there is a pedestrian crossing coming up. And in the same area down in Hobart, I mean, this is I hope it was only the installer, not the designer, has somehow thought that the pedestrian legs should point for the pedestrians, so they know where to cross rather than to vehicles, to actually stop at this location. So again, we can pick up things like that in post opening, in the post opening. Now, a little exercise for you to do. Okay. So here's a pedestrian crossing. It all looks like it's conforming to, well, it's a bit old. You'll be using a sort of fluorescent orange now, green orange. But if you were to be asked to do a road safety audit when this was a design, that was designed just the way it's been built now, what do you think we could do to lessen the risk a little bit? Now, I know some of you are going to say raise it, and I like that. That's a great idea, but let's put raising it off the table. What little tweaks to this could we do to make it a little bit safer? Wow, great stuff. I think lots of the things coming in are really good, but the one I particularly like is Andrew's there, who sort of split it in two. Really honing in on this bin and vegetation here. On the approach, you got a vehicle coming that way, a kid or someone in a wheelchair coming out there. We're blocking that sight line immediately, aren't we? This whole setup could be just put onto this side, couldn't it? We could have made that all there if they really need the bin there, or move the bin somewhere else. So that's a small tweak, but opening up those sight lines can be really beneficial. Not as bad on this side, but yeah. And then, yeah, lots of talk about, you know, is it very clear that there's a pedestrian crossing there with these other lines? And yeah, lots of post box. Yeah, lots of good stuff there. Okay, I'll talk you through this other specific example, which I think, again, a tragic incident where somebody's lost their life, but I think we can learn again from this. So the pedestrian stepped out here and was struck by a vehicle coming through here and killed. And I'll show you a bit about sort of where the vehicle's coming from. The vehicle was coming this way, and the pedestrian was here, and they stepped out there, and they were struck. I'll go back a little bit further. You can see it's a fairly high-speed road here, 70 kilometres an hour, slip lane. Sorry, a shallow entry angle entry into the service road. And yeah, it's interesting. As we were doing our investigation and looking at it, we didn't have any CCTV footage or anything like that, but the picture here just doesn't do it justice. You've got green, you've got this ticking to go, and it's just really it's really draws you to want to step out there. And yeah, I mean, we don't know for absolute certainty, but I feel that the pedestrian sort of did have a bit of that see-through effect, as somebody's saying there. Well, they were looking out to here and they just sort of stepped, and it was all just too late. So lots of things we could do at this location to lessen that risk, and we would love to see that all happen when they first built the signal. Somebody looked at the design, thought about it. These were built a long time ago, but as auditors, that's going to be our role, is to try to get those things like a crossing, which it's now got, in there before the incident, or you know, maybe the signals got connected through, or maybe back here it was ways to slow vehicles down, make it at least very slow on entry. So one thing I want you to be really clear with your client about is that you are not undertaking a DDA audit, Disability Discrimination Act audit. So for those who don't know what that is, that would be something that would check conformance with a design or a plan or an area for compliance with the Disability Discrimination. That would include things like tactile ground surface indicators. Do they contrast the pavement? Are they the right ones in the right spots? But it has a whole lot of other stuff. Are the ramp grades appropriate for a vehicle to get up, a wheelchair to get up those? Are the handrails at any points, you know, correct height? Is there braille on the bus stop so people with vision without vision can read these things? None of that is really going to be covered in a road safety audit unless you can substantially link it to a road safety risk. those are very important things, and that's what we want to include everybody in our community to be able to move around our network. But just be aware the road safety audit one may not pick that up, and it's got to be clear. In practice, a lot of auditors will pop in a series of things associated with the tactile ground surface indicators and the like, because they're a very obvious one, either they're not there or they're misaligned or the like. For me, most of the time, that is just to note. I'll put it into note. I might even put it as an appendix. I find it very hard to ever get that to an actual risk rating. I believe if we got all of our tactile ground surface indicators in Australia correct, we installed it in every location, I'm not sure we would actually save any pedestrian lives or prevent any pedestrian serious injuries over a year. Maybe, maybe one or two in a 10-year period of our thousands and thousands and thousands that are happening out there. And it's not to say that it's not important to put these in and get them right. We've got an act that tells us we have to. It's just to be aware of, like, what are the things that are big ticket risk items versus things that are not. So that's why I would put them in an appendix or something and just say, oh, by the way, this is right, this is right. The other one is that you're not an expert in the DDA code and the act and the requirements, unless you are. Maybe you are, but that's not what the road safety audit is about. And again, I just stress again, I'm not saying that I don't believe that that is important stuff. I'm just saying that a road safety audit has a particular scope and a DDA audit has another particular scope. Yeah. Oh yeah, colouring pavement. Yeah, I'm not fussed about it. Done a couple of studies in my career on it, commissioned a couple of studies. I haven't actually done the studies myself, but I other people to do them. Never showed me any significant road safety benefit. Some councils like them, some road authorities like it. We worry a little bit about skid resistance for motorcyclists and cyclists. It's a maintenance thing. It looks pretty average after a fairly short period of time, but I've got no safety reason. Well, the skid resistance one maybe, but again, I'm not fussed either way. Okay, time for you to do something. And I will, I'll get you to do this, a few more slides, and then, as I said, I'm going to hand you back a bit of time to finish off your quiz and the like. Here's an intersection. It obviously exists because we've got an aerial image of it. And this intersection has quite a crash history. But interestingly, when you do analyze the crash history of this intersection, don't write this into the chat yet because we've got a poll that will come up and you'll be able to use it. But let me explain it first. So don't write it in the chat. There's a particular spot on here that has 6 pedestrian crashes, and they are all exactly the same location. And yeah, 3 serious injuries, very serious injuries, and 3 more minor injuries, and no doubt a whole lot of near misses that we've not ever been able to get the information for. So what I'm going to do is get you to tell me of these 5 options, which one it was, and that will come up as a poll, and I'll explain them to you. They were, they were not all at the same time. It was over a 5-year period. But that's, to me, that is a significant trend, especially with all the same crash type. So it'll come up as a poll in a second. One is turning into the polls come up. You can move it around your screen if you want to be able to see. One is turning into the service road and the pedestrian being the dotted line. 2, pedestrian crossing at the signalised intersection and a vehicle turning on. 3, crossing the service road and the vehicle, sorry, not the service road, the slip lane, and the vehicle striking them. 4, other service lane. Keep saying service lane, slip lane, I apologize. And the vehicle striking, and 5, walking along the footpath, and a vehicle going through this keep clear and striking the pedestrian. So have your vote, and remember, you don't lose any points for getting it wrong. In fact, we don't even know who votes for what. You don't lose any points during the live session, any marks. So let's see how we go. Okay. Oh, yeah, some people might have lost the poll. That's all right. Let's end that, Marissa. And let's have a look what people are going for. We've got a lot of people on 1, 2, and 3 seem popular there. And I did sort of purposefully pick 4 spots that have some pedestrian risk. I didn't want to make it too easy for you. Let's stop sharing that, and we'll explain the answer. The answer is 2. Well done if you said 2. As I say, don't worry if you picked some of the others. You didn't have long to look at it, and you're not going to the site, and you're not watching and analysing and getting lots of intel. But why is that? Well, this is a strange configuration. Pedestrian crossing should go into the island and then be crossed that way. And why is that? Well, it's exactly because of this reason. That a driver approaching, okay, they're looking to the right, and then they turn over the vehicle. So at least, I suppose, at that pedestrian crossing point, if we had it there, there's a bit more chance that the driver would have seen the pedestrian. And then the timing of this with the signals is just sort of horrible, because these vehicles come to a stop. Just as they're stopping, is the chance for the pedestrian to step out because their green man goes just as the vehicles are turning. So a vehicle's approaching, they're seeing them starting to slow down and stop, and we have that incident occurring. So our task as road safety auditors is to get this at design stage, and try and make sure that doesn't happen. It's not built like that. Again, this one got changed, but it had to have those incidents in order for it to get changed. And that's sort of more your classic black spot treatment, which is to say, what's going on here? What can we look at all these crashes? Why are we getting so many of these? Nut it out, and then come up with a redesign in this way. The auditors are the ones who should be able to see a new intersection, a new design, or some alterations, and be able to pick that that's going to happen without actually seeing it all play out. So, excuse me. Hope I don't get a sneezing fit, Marissa. That's happened once today.
Bless you, Ken.
Thank you. So there we've had that change. Now, a lot of people start to get a little bit concerned at this stage, because they go, oh my God, this is pretty serious. If I'm auditing and we miss something like that, it's got serious consequences to the safety of our community. And I want to just calm you down a little bit and reassure you with a number of ways. First of all, We're not going to throw you out there straight after this course and make you be the only one to do, auditing these sort of big schemes. You audit as a team. You will link yourself up with a senior auditor. You'll gain experience, and you'll get that mentoring and the like. The other is, if you take your time and do this methodically, you'll probably identify these things. And like the way I would do this is sitting there with the plan, for example, to, if it's a new intersection or the like, and I sort of say, okay, I'm driving up here and I want to do a right turn. So, okay, is it clear where I get into the right turn lane? Is it obvious there? Is there anything blocking my ability to see the signals? Yeah, okay, no, that's all right. I get in there and I do the right turn. Is it clear where I go there? Am I going to go down the wrong carriageway? What if I go a bit fast and I come off the road? Is there something there to hit? I think those. And then I come back and I go, okay, now I'm back here again. I'm going to go straight. Okay, is it clear? Is that aligned? Am I going to? And then I go, okay, now I want to go left. And I'm coming up here and I go, oh, hang on. Am I going left into this? Is that how I get to the road? What's going on there? Oh no, okay, I'll go up to that. And I might sort of put a little mark there and say, I'm interested in that. That's a bit weird and that's a bit odd to go in, have an entry in that way. And then I'd go, okay, now I'm coming up here. Okay, I'm looking out to the right and I'm turning, and then, okay, I'm going over a pedestrian crossing now. That's interesting. And I'll highlight that bit. And you go through that. Then you do all these directions in all these legs, and maybe then you come back and say, okay, now I'm trying to ride my bike through here. How do I do that? Get out and try to walk from the McDonald's over here to the whatever that is over there. How do I go to do that? Okay, I'll walk. So you will work your way through these, and you'll identify a lot of risk in that sort of methodical way of doing it. The other thing it's good to do is, for any area, try to get out there at times of different activity. And if it's a school in the area, try to see it during school start or school end or both. If there's a local footy ground or something, can go there when there's a home game and it's finishing, see how that plays out. So it's good to try to see it during those different times. And then, of course, we've got all these recommendations we can make across a whole raft of things, and you've been doing well coming up with ideas already and things that we could say. But for pedestrian crossing facilities in general, somebody went on the bird theme at one point. There was puffin crossings for signalised intersections, which is this thing. It's the pedestrian user-friendly intelligent crossing is what it stands for, which is like a radar. Well, it's not radar. It's the same technology as when you walk up to your house at night and the lights automatically go on. But it just keeps the light red for vehicles until there's no movement on the crossing. That's how that one works. Two-can crossing, which is the two can cross, pedestrians and cyclists. So you've got the two there. I'm not making these names up. These are the actual names. Now that one's just really a road rules conformity one. I don't see much safety things. Again, if it was a shared path, approaches a signalised intersection, and the design only had the pedestrian green, I wouldn't make that a risk. I'd just make it a to note in my order. I'd just say, hey, by the way, you got to put a bike symbol there as well to meet the road rules. Pelican crossing. So this is a pedestrian light controlled crossing. So it goes as a red light, and then it goes to a flashing yellow for a while if any pedestrians lagging on the crossing, and then it goes to green. So that's what the cars see. So that's pedestrian light controlled crossing. I think this made UK's, funniest 10 road signs or something. Pelican crossing makes complete sense to me, but obviously not too many others. Now all of you completely understand it as well, though. There are Pegasus crossings. Again, it's a little road rule quirk of a horse being a vehicle of its own, and you can't drive a vehicle across, so you've got that. The horse symbol and the higher thing. So yes, Marissa, the road rules also state that if you ride a horse when you're intoxicated, it is it's drink driving. However, you are allowed to ride an intoxicated horse.
Bizarre. I didn't know horses drank that much.
Yes, yeah, you
And Tom Grant says, can the horses fly at a Pegasus crossing?
There you go. All right, we're starting to get off track here. I better wind up and let people go and do their assignments and their quizzes. Okay. The final thing I want to say is that Austroad's Guide to Road Safety Part 6, Road Safety Order, has what we call prompt lists in the back. And this is another reason you don't need to be absolutely too concerned about missing things, because for each of these, you get a heap of questions that you can answer. They are there to prompt your thinking. Now, you don't actually hand this in as part of your audit, but they're a really good way to guide your thinking, to make sure you think about all these principles. And pedestrian and cyclists prompt list H6, and we'll be able to point you at that. I'm not going to do the quiz, and we're not going to do the 360-degree exercise yet, I don't think. No, we're going to do that in module 5, actually, we decided in this course. So at this point, I'm going to see if anybody's got any questions about pedestrian safety. Happy to answer those. Or if you've got any questions about your assignment, what we need you to be doing, creating your little research assignment, maybe a fact sheet, little video, podcast, whatever creative way you want to tell us a little bit about that topic and the road safety and what road safety auditors might be thinking about for that. Otherwise, we'll let you do your quiz. There is a quiz at the end of this. And we'll also be expecting you to be getting that assignment done.
Yes, absolutely. We've already had a few people submit their assignments, so thank you. We've got any source ideas for the assignments, please? Where to find information to understand the topic?
Yeah, well, I mean, pretty sure all of them, if you just Google it, you'll be finding information on it. You could go to the Safe System Solutions website and you could use our search function on most of those, because I think for quite a few of them, we've put out information and the like, and that might give you some ideas. And the Austroad's website is also a good source of intel as well. If you're really struggling on all of that, just shoot through an email to training@Safe System Solutions, and they'll point you at a few things. Remember, it's not meant to be a many-day exercise of researching. It's meant to be very short, 10, 15 minutes of Googling, looking at stuff, reading a bit here and there, slap together a fact sheet, and you've got to, tick off of that assignment. You want to go a little bit more, do a little bit more elaborate, better chance to win a prize. Yeah, you might put in a little bit of extra effort, but certainly don't cancel your weekend plans. Just get it finished.
Yeah, can we get some feedback if it's been submitted? Yeah, absolutely. You'll be marking a lot of the module 1 assignments that you will submit. So Ken will be marking and viewing them all, and he'll provide you all with some feedback. Absolutely.
Yeah, you'll get feedback, and I won't jump into it quite yet and give those, but you have the ability to submit 3 times. So if you didn't quite get there, then you'd certainly get detailed feedback and you'd be able to resubmit. So that wouldn't be an issue. But this one, as I say, we're fairly relaxed on it. Most people get through this very easily, and then the assignments start to get a little bit harder, and you get, you really need to start making sure you're applying the learnings.
And you do have until Monday, the due dates, which will close the business on Monday. So you still have a few more days. So no stress there.
Right. All right. Well, I think everybody can jump in and do today's quiz.
Yeah.
And finish off that assignment.
Sure, absolutely. Quiz 2 is under the LMS, under module 2, so you'll be able to find it there. And thanks everyone for your participation today.
Bye.
Bye.